Bank Holiday Monday. Bank Holiday Monday. Bank Holiday Mundane. No shops open, plenty of rain. Caribbean. Problem with the Caribbean is, the rooms are always too close to the sea for my liking. All it takes is for a ship to go past and cause a wave and it would have wiped out our room. It's the only place I've ever been where I've thought about going to bed wearing armbands. It's mad how clean the sea is in the Caribbean. It's as if the sea in the rest of the world is a big council estate for the poor fish, while the Caribbean is for the rich fish. Even though I don't really like the sea, it's hard to resist going in the Caribbean. I hadn't been in for years, but when I went to St. Lucia, I took the gamble. First of all, I just went in up to my knees and got out. Then I went up to my waist and got out. And finally, I went in and had a swim. I got out after about 20 minutes, feeling refreshed, and sat in the sun. 10 minutes later, I was hot again and said to Suzanne that I was going to go back in. She stayed on her lounger. Here I was going back in the sea for a second time in an hour, after about 20 years of not going in at all. I was thinking what an idiot I've been when I got a really sharp pain in my foot. It was like the top of my foot had been slashed by broken glass. I turned around and ran out of the sea and went back to Suzanne. My feet are normally a size 10. My left foot still was, but my right foot was now a size 12. It had ballooned and had red streaks all over the top of it. Suzanne asked if I'd seen what did it. I hadn't. It came from nowhere. It was like I'd been happy-slapped from some yob jellyfish that had come from a rough part of the sea, as I mentioned earlier. I should have never gone in. There's way too much weird stuff floating about in the sea. There's some octopus that's the size of a 10-pence piece and can kill you if it touches you. It's got 8 arms, so the chances of it touching you is pretty high. Like I said, too much weird, dangerous stuff. Suzanne said it might have been a jellyfish and told me I should get some ice. I had to queue at the bar for 5 minutes before they told me I couldn't have any ice as there was a wedding on and they needed it for the fruit punch. There was a wedding every day in our hotel. I think people have this idea that it'll be really romantic to get married there. But it isn't, because everyone stands around watching. We watched a couple tie the knot around the pool area. There they were, getting to the serious I do bit, when a fella from Scotland who was in the pool did a huge burp while his brother stood watching his hands down his trunks. Hardly the stuff you read in Mills and Boon, is it? There was supposed to be a gay wedding on that day. We were going home. A fella I was sat next to on the beach, a printer from Milton Keynes, thought this was outrageous. He asked me what I thought, and I said, whose surname do they keep? He didn't discuss it with me anymore after that. Anyway, the fella behind the bar said I'd be okay, but should see the hotel doctor, who was at lunch but would come back at some point. That's the problem with the Caribbean. Everyone is too chilled. The jellyfish that stung me was probably just trying to give me a high five. I ended up getting 2 fruit punches and taking the ice out of them. I wrapped it in a towel and held it on my foot. I saw the doctor 2 hours later. He used a cotton wool ball to wipe my foot with alcohol and told me not to wear socks for 24 hours. You don't hear that sort of advice on Casualty, do you? We did a couple of trips while we were there. It was a bit sad because an old woman died in apartment 20, but her husband still went on the trip they'd booked. We did a tour of the island by car. In one of the places we stopped at, the guide pointed out a cashew tree and told us not to eat the nuts hanging from there because they are poisonous when untreated. I couldn't see what he was pointing at, as there was a massive German woman on our tour who was blocking my view. I asked Suzanne what it looked like so I don't go eating it. She just told me not to eat anything off a tree. The tour included a barbecue on a small private beach that we could only get to by kayak. The kayak had 2 seats on them. The guide suggested that the woman would sit at the back and do the steering, while the bloke sat in the middle and did the rowing. The only people who didn't do it this way round was the big German woman, whose husband was smaller than her, so they swapped places, and the old fella whose wife had died, he shared a kayak with the tour guide. The place we had to kayak from was pretty rank, and we had to go through a type of Amazon jungle. The guy said there was nothing dangerous in the water, but someone noticed hundreds of jellyfish. The guide said something about how they don't sting as they don't realise they can. I was a bit worried, because there must be one clever one among them who knows they can sting. They can't all be daft. I picked up one with my oar. It looked really odd and ill because of the muddy waters they live in. The morale must be pretty low, looking the way they do. That's probably why they don't sting. They probably think they are good for nothing. Me and Suzanne were no good at kayaking and ended up having an argument because I didn't row properly. The only people behind us were the big German woman and her husband. They weighed her kayak down at the back, which meant her fella was struggling to row. They lost balance and tipped over into the muddy water. She really struggled to get back on. Her face went red and she was having problems breathing as she cocked her leg up, giving us a view of the thick mud spilling from her bikini round her arse. 20 minutes later, we were there. We were all knackered. Instead of talking about the lovely beach and views, everyone was talking tactics on how to kayak back. I say everyone, but the German woman was out in the sea, scooping mud out of her arse with one hand while eating a chicken leg with the other. It's weird how holidays are meant to be relaxing, and yet people always do active stuff when they're away. When I was in Tunisia, I'd have a kip around 3 p.m, because the heat made me tired, and every day I'll be woken up by some holiday rep shouting at a row of 80-year-olds who he had doing star jumps to the music of Shakademus and Plies. How none of them died, I do not know. Normally, at this time of day, they'd be relaxed in front of the telly, eating a tea cake while waiting for Countdown to come on. I've never been into exercise. I don't think the body is supposed to be pushed to the max. I think people just do it for the recognition. When I used to live in Docklands in London, I once had to move from my flat to another one just down the road. I decided that I didn't need a removal van as I could carry the stuff on my own. The day I moved turned out to be the day of the London Marathon. There I was, walking down West Ferry Road with a lamp in one hand and a magazine rack in the other, and all the spectators thought I was doing some sort of novelty fun run and were clapping. It made me feel quite good, but not good enough to want to train 15 hours a day. I watched some event on the telly where people involved had to run a couple of miles, jump into a river and swim for about 5 minutes, jump on a bike and pedal up a hill, and then run for another 5 minutes to the finish line. The winner got a gold medal, the same prize that the winner of the 100 metres got. So why not just do that? We ate the chicken, and then I sat on the beach while Suzanne did a bit of snorkeling. I didn't fancy it after the jellyfish incident. I sat and listened to an annoying loud woman who was telling another couple where they should visit and where they should eat on the island. She was saying how she'd been here for 2 weeks and had another week to go. She kept bossing her husband around. She had him up and down getting chicken for the couple she was talking to. Then she had him rubbing suntan lotion on her back, and then he had to shift the plates of chicken bones because they were attracting wasps. She was a right pain in the arse. Her husband didn't really chat. He just sat there with his shades on pretending to read. But I know he was eyeing up the younger woman in the swimming gear because I watched him for 10 minutes and he didn't turn a page once. We got back on the kayak. Me and Suzanne did okay getting back. We came second to the tour guide and the fella whose wife died the day before. I think we would have let him win anyway. Jellyfish. I don't like jellyfish. They're not a fish, they're just a blob. They don't have eyes, fins, or scales like a cod. They float about blind, stinging people in the seas. And no one eats jellyfish with chips and mushy peas. Get rid of them.